All right, so get this right. For our deep dive today, we're going to be taking a look at Sepia. And get this, it's not just one screenplay. You guys sent over 3 different
Oh,
versions.
wow.
Yeah, so there's a 5-minute like short film version, there's a 30-minute, and then there's the full-length 90-minute feature film.
It's really interesting to see the different likes because you can kind of chart the writer's journey. Like,
Hmm.
what did they start with?
Yeah.
And what blossomed as they overawed it more and figured out the story they wanted to tell.
Right. So, okay, let's get into it. Sepia. The story revolves around Bernie and Ellie. They're best friends. They've been best friends for over a decade, 11 years, the screenplay tells us.
Okay.
And then somewhere along the way, their friendship blossoms into romance. They become a couple. However, Bernie is a lawyer, but he's a very ethical, by the book kind of lawyer. He's the kind of guy that will turn down cases if they don't sit well with his moral compass.
I see. Very interesting.
Ellie, we don't know as much about her professional life. She's clearly driven, she's successful, but the screenplay keeps her career deliberately vague.
And that's interesting, too, because the entire story is from Bernie's point of view. So we're seeing everything through his eyes.
It makes you wonder how she would tell the story.
Exactly, yeah.
What would she say about him?
Yeah, and what details you know. Would she agree with his assessment of her? It's, yeah, very interesting.
Yeah, it's like we're only getting half the picture. So we have this couple. They've got this long history. They're like 2 branches of the same tree, right? They've grown up together, grown together. And then Bernie receives a gift. He receives an antique camera from, and this is a direct quote from the screenplay, a youngster with untimely wrinkles.
Okay, so clearly this youngster, if we can even call him that, has lived a lot of life, right? Like he's carrying some weight.
He's seen some things.
Yeah, and even the camera itself, the fact that he gives this camera away, it's
Yeah.
almost like it's not even a hand-me-down. It's like a burden that he's like, here, you take this. And the screenplay really stresses that, it's a gift, no strings attached, just keep it, and that's all he says.
Yeah, if somebody was like, hey, here's this, keep it, I'd be like, I don't want this. This feels like a bad idea.
Yeah, like, I don't know about this.
What have you given me?
Right. Like, why are you doing this?
This has bad mojo on it.
Exactly. And that's just the setup.
Okay, so we left off, and Bernie is holding this camera, this antique camera, and it's got like this really weird, creepy vibe to it already.
Right. And there's got to be more to it.
And there is.
There's always more.
The screenplay doesn't hold back, right? It's like, okay, here's the deal with the camera. It's not just like a camera. It reveals hidden truths.
Oh, okay.
But it only works under very specific circumstances.
What's that?
The subject of the photo has to be someone that Bernie loves, like romantically loves.
Mm.
And it has to be, quote, real love, end quote.
Real love.
Yeah.
Now, how do you define real love?
What does that even mean?
I mean, is that the camera deciding what real love is?
Right, like can a camera be the arbiter of real love?
Especially a creepy antique camera.
It feels like, even from the setup, the writer's telling us this is going to be a story where truth is not straightforward.
Right. Yeah, there's going to be some twists and turns in how we figure out what's really going on.
Absolutely. And it gets even more complex. So remember those sepia tones we talked about?
Yeah. Like the color.
Yes, exactly. So it's like, okay, any photo that this camera takes, it's almost like a photo negative. Okay, so where there should be white in the photo, it's sepia, and where there should be sepia, it's white. Unless the event depicted in the photo actually happened.
Okay, so it's true color if it really happened.
Yes.
Oh, that is such a mind bend.
Right.
Okay, so it's like a reverse sepia.
And so it's like if Bernie's looking at this photo and it's that kind of inverted, he knows something's up.
Right.
But if it's a regular photo,
Then it really happened.
oh my
It's like, what?
that's a lot to process.
And for someone like Bernie, who's, he likes things to be by the book, he likes things to be morally sound,
Mm-hmm.
this camera is basically his worst nightmare.
Yeah.
Because it's like, well, what is the truth?
Exactly, yeah. And like you were saying, the way the writer sets it up with like the sepia tones, it's not just like a regular camera. There's something else going on.
It's giving us a visual representation of like the bending of reality, potentially.
Exactly, yeah.
So, Bernie's snapping photos with this camera.
Oh, I don't like where this is going.
He's at a bowling alley of all places.
Okay.
And he snaps a photo of Ellie.
Yeah.
What do you think the photo shows?
It's sepia, isn't it?
It's sepia.
Come on. And it's Ellie kissing her ex,
Right.
Mike. Yeah, Mike. And we never see Mike. We just get his name. And it's just like,
Well, he's the worst.
he's the weird. So Bernie sees us and he's just like,
Devastated.
Yeah, because remember, we're in Bernie's point of view the entire time, so we, the audience, don't even know if this sepia-toned image is reality or if it's Bernie's own issues bubbling up to the surface.
Right.
But for Bernie, it's real.
Yeah, it's real. Oh.
So Bernie is reeling from this photo, right? This vision of Ellie kissing her ex. What happens next? How does this impact their relationship?
Well, in the 5-minute version of the screenplay, that's kind of where it ends, right?
Yeah.
Like Ellie kind of has this breakdown. Bernie is, devastated and heartbroken.
Mm-hmm.
And you realize that regardless of whether or not it was true, this camera has ruined their relationship.
Oh man, that's heavy.
Yeah. But in the longer versions, the 30-minute and the 90-minute, the story continues.
Okay.
And Bernie's really trying to deal with the fallout of this.
And he keeps the camera, right? Like he holds on to it.
He does.
Which is so interesting to me. I would want to throw that thing away. I'd be like, you are bad news.
It's almost like he's holding on to it for some sort of hope.
Mm.
Like maybe you can fix things, even though it broke things.
Right. Like maybe there's an answer in the camera?
Yeah, exactly. Like maybe there's some explanation.
You broke my heart. Now fix it.
Exactly, yeah. But things get even more interesting because a new character enters the picture. Her name is Stacy. And Stacy's this really kind of cool character. She's very empathetic.
Okay.
Very intuitive. And she's someone who can kind of see Bernie's emotional baggage.
So the opposite of that camera guy from the beginning.
Yeah, definitely. And on top of that, she has this ability to kind of sense the energy of objects.
Okay. Interesting.
So, of course, she immediately picks up on this camera and is like, this is not a good camera.
Yeah, I bet. She's probably getting some serious bad vibes.
Oh, yeah. She calls it a sepia human reflection camera
Hmm.
and is just like, this is dangerous.
It's like she knows it's not just revealing truth, it's twisting it somehow.
Yeah, and she becomes this voice of reason for Bernie. Because, she starts asking, well, what if those images, what if they weren't Ellie actually doing something wrong? What if it was just you kind of projecting onto her?
Oh, well.
Because she can tell how much he's struggling with his own insecurities.
Man, that's a tough thing to hear. Like, what if you're the problem, Bernie?
Right, but it's also like this light bulb moment where he's like, oh, maybe I did mess up. Maybe the camera wasn't telling the whole truth. But here's the thing. Even though Stacy's planted these seeds of doubt, you can tell Bernie's still holding on to those images, those sepia-toned memories.
He's still hung up on them.
Yeah. In the 90-minute version, we actually see him rehearsing a phone call to Ellie, like trying to work up the courage to apologize.
Oh.
But he's so scared of being rejected, of reopening those old wounds.
And really, who could blame him?
Right.
This camera has done a real number on him.
It really has.
Yeah.
And this is where the different versions of the screenplay offer these really thought-provoking endings.
Oh, I love that. I love when a screenplay leaves you with some options. Makes you think.
Me too, because, in one version, Bernie kind of accepts things as they are.
Okay.
He moves on,
He gets rid of the camera.
eventually.
Uh,
But in another, he ends up reconnecting with Stacy.
Interesting. Okay.
And the final shot is actually of their wedding photo.
Oh, that's nice. Wait a minute.
Well, guess what?
Sepia.
It's sepia,
Oh, what?
full-on inverted colors. So it leaves you with this question of, was their love real?
Oh, man. That is such a good ending.
Right. It makes you think, and it makes you want to go back and look for all the clues that you might have missed along the way.
I love it.
And that's the beauty of these screenplays. They're not just stories. They're conversation starters. They make you think about relationships, truth, and the stories we tell ourselves.
Absolutely.
And who knows, maybe they even make you a little wary of antique cameras. You never know what you might find.
That's great advice. Well, that was Sepia. 3 versions, 1 intriguing story. What a wild ride.
Definitely a must-read for any screenwriting enthusiast.
For sure. Well, until next time, keep those screenplays coming.
And keep those cameras at arm's length.
Exactly. You never know what might be lurking inside.